Today on an all-new Dr. Phil, a daughter in danger.
I chew and spit every meal.
The bags are left everywhere in her room.
A family in crisis.
You blame your wife for Emily's eating disorder.
I know what I did to her. I've ruined her.
She needs serious help.
I can't go away. I can't do this.
But will she accept it?
She and I have a
I didn't really
a
ask for a
connection.
response yet. This is about her, not about you. Let's do it.
Have a good show, everybody. Here we go.
I hate to see people suffering, and you've hurt long enough.
Stand by, Dr. Phil.
I'm going to get you the help that you need.
5, 4.
This is going to be a changing day in your life. Well, I am sure that you recognize these common household items. This is zippered storage bags and some really large trash bags. Today's guests, Stephanie and Dan, say their 17-year-old daughter does use these, but not to keep food fresh, but to keep food after she chews it and spits it out. And these bags are used to try and clean up her room where she hoards the remains of her chew and spit eating disorder. Now, you heard right. The disorder is called chew and spit, known as CNS. The goal is to get enough of the flavor of the food in your mouth and then spit it out so that you don't swallow any of the calories. Here's a glimpse.
This is Emily's room today. She has ripped it all apart. We have a bag of chew and spit, bags and bags of chew and spit here. And this is how my daughter sustains herself, just chewing and spitting. This container looks like it has a brownie in it, but it's not a brownie. It's filled with chew and spit. Oh, more bags. And her room smells like vomit.
Well, Stephanie says the pungent smell of Emily's room is just almost unbearable. But even worse is the thought that this disorder could eventually kill her daughter.
Emily started off by starving herself. She wouldn't eat for days and days. And then she found chew and spit. And she will take a large gallon, she'll sit in her bedroom and chew the food and then spit it into the bags. And the bags are left everywhere in her room. To the side of a wall. She was supposed to clean that. It's out of control. God. Oh, it's open. A very open bag of chew and spit, and that's why her carpet is ruined. For people who can't tolerate the thought of making themselves vomit, chew and spit is the softer side. It's all sugary, high-carb food, so cereals, chocolate, cupcakes, cookies, and it's a binge eat. It becomes a habit and addictive, and it has side effects like rotting your teeth. Emily's room is toxic. The bags are kept everywhere. They're hidden in her drawers, in her bed, with her clothes, under the bed, everywhere. Does it look like throw up? Oh yeah. Does it smell like throw up? Unbelievably. She's always been a hoarder. Letting things go is just extremely difficult. Even a piece of paper with one sentence on it has value in her mind. I know she hates where she is in her life. She hates looking in the mirror. She hates judging herself the way that she does. She hates being moody to us. I have put my daughter through some of the most horrific experiences. She, starting at age 8, has had to be my nurse. I'm diabetic. I used to be massively obese, so I ate my emotions like most women do. But I still have my own issues with food. My health is one of those things that gives her a lot of anxiety. You question yourself as a parent and what have I done and how have I failed this child? And that's a really awful thing to admit, that you failed your kid.
Well, Stephanie's husband, Dan, says the fault lies squarely with his wife, who he believes is to blame for their daughter's eating disorder as well as her hoarding.
I came into Emily's life when she was 3. Emily has had a eating disorder for almost her whole life. Emily's room is a biohazard. It is just awful. She's never really liked to keep a maintained room, but add the chew and spit and it manifests into the nightmare that we have now. Emily definitely doesn't just chew and spit in the bedroom. She has her license in her own car. The back of her car was a foot thick in trash. If I let that go, that pile will fill up her whole passenger seat. This is a teenager who has lost control and doesn't know where to go. My wife, Stephanie, is to blame for Emily's eating disorder. My wife enables Emily. She brings in foods that are high in carbs and starches and lots of sugar.
There's some leftover wrappers. I normally find goodies in here.
Those are the things Emily prefers to chew and spit. Before she met me, Stephanie weighed at least 300 pounds. Stephanie's obesity definitely played a role in Emily's eating disorder, as well as Stephanie's depression. There were multiple years where Stephanie wouldn't get out of bed, wouldn't take a shower, wouldn't get dressed because she was severely depressed. Stephanie has a lot of medical issues, and Emily was forced to take care of her at a very young age. Stephanie has narcolepsy, sleep apnea, diabetes, heart disease. These things took their toll on Emily because she was watching her mother give up on life. We fight a lot on how to handle Emily's eating disorder. Stephanie would turn a blind eye and not acknowledge it.
I try not to come into this room.
She would definitely put her head in the sand on this issue. I typically have to be the bad guy because Stephanie won't do it. Things got so bad that I did threaten to leave the marriage. And it hurt my relationship with Emily to the point where she would leave the house and not even acknowledge me or say bye or have a good day. I don't recognize my daughter anymore. I am definitely worried Emily's going to die.
Okay, now we're all on the same wavelength in terms of this is a serious disorder and something that needs to be dealt with, right?
Absolutely.
And you don't know how to deal with it. Okay.
We're in over our head.
So I just want to be sure that we understand the gravity of what we're talking about here. And this is coming between the two of you, correct?
This
Absolutely.
is definitely a major sticking point between our relationship.
Okay, and you blame your wife for Emily's eating disorder.
I blame Stephanie for a lot of the eating disorder, yes.
What is she doing to cause this, in your opinion?
She brings the wrong foods into the house. Emily's favorite thing is to get into sugary kind of foods, and we always seem to have desserts in the house, but we don't always happen to have fruit or salad in the house. She enables Emily, so when Emily is maybe doing things or acting poorly, you know, she'll make excuses like she hasn't slept.
And you say it's your fault.
I say part of this is absolutely my fault.
You say you had 17 heart attacks in a month,
And they treated me like nothing was happening.
and you're putting this on an 8-year-old?
Gee, I know what I did to her. I've ruined her.
And later,
I mean, she and I have
I didn't really ask for a
connection.
response yet. I don't mean to cut you off, but this is about her, not about you.
This is why I was fearing coming here. I can't do this.
Tomorrow on an all-new Dr. Phil.
Get out of my room.
She's afraid of her teen daughter.
According to your mother, you threatened to slit people's throat.
But is it Mom
I'm a big pushover. I do all these threats and I never follow through.
So you're the problem then.
who created a monster?
I have never wanted you out of my life.
I got you on tape saying it.
If Bailey was gone, it would be a lot better.
Why are you up here now telling me you didn't say it?
America's most watched talk show. That's tomorrow.
Well, you wrote me a long email.
Yes, and
You wrote me one back in 08,
Yeah,
and then you wrote me this year.
yes.
And I was really interested in some of the things you said in this. You start out by saying, "Dear Dr. Phil, I'm about to do something that I haven't done in many years. I'm going to be honest." So what is it that you've been lying about for many years?
I think for me, I have not been honest with myself as to how much my depression affected Dan and Emily. I found through my illness, I got rewarded with finding faith, and I'm kind of like a tornado that came through and I wiped out the entire family, and I got help, and they're still in the aftermath. Did I contribute to Emily? Yes, I thought it was a phase. When he would yell and scream at her, I was softer, and I would be, it's okay, and I would take a different approach.
Did being sick become your identity?
Oh, absolutely. It was everything.
Because a couple of things, you say, I know that my battle with MRSA was the starting point of my family's demise. Even though Emily's struggle with her eating began several years earlier, I almost died several times after going septic with my MRSA. Because you start out here and you say, I want to talk to you about my daughter. And then you spent pages talking about your health and your situation. I'm just trying to find out what your point of view is in this. Because I said, has being sick become your identity? You said yes, completely.
It was.
And she became your caretaker at age 8.
She became partial caretaker, absolutely. She was put in a situation to help take care of me because Dan traveled a lot.
So at 8, you said she was doing IVs and hooking up your PICC line and
Yep.
taking care of you and all of those sorts of things.
Well, even more recently, she spent, was it last summer or the summer before, watching you have multiple heart attacks. And we'd go to the hospital and they would say she wasn't having a heart attack.
Well, you said you had 17 in here you say you had 17 heart attacks in a month?
Yeah. It's over. I just made the 6-week window before I finally put my foot down to get the stress test done, and then they said they had to medevac me.
But because I went through your medical records and I didn't find 17 heart attacks in there.
Because every time I went to the ER, they said I never had a heart attack. You can go through every single medical record, and I never had a heart attack. I just somehow landed with 25% left of my heart when I went there, and they said I could be on the donor list.
And now you're a smoker, right?
I have been a smoker, yes.
Well, you're a smoker now. You say, I destroyed my health and continue to do so recklessly, and I still do today by smoking. It's dumb and so unfair to those who love me. I know this, and yet I still sneak out like a kid to do it. It kills Emily when she catches me. Dan almost left a few months ago, which was a real eye-opener. I've had to take Emily to the ER several times for dehydration. During one of your heart attacks, it appeared to be life-threatening. You had collapsed in the floor. You refused to let her call 911. What's that drama about? Why would you?
Because they kept sending me home. They sent me home over and over again, and they said it was heartburn, and they'd send me home. They'd plug me in. They would do the EKGs, and they'd say, you're fine. It's good. Go home. And they treated me like nothing was happening.
And you're putting this on an 8-year-old, 10-year-old, 14-year-old, 16-year-old kid?
I know what I've done to her. And I told her I will never, ever, that if she's scared to call 911, it was the worst. Telling her no and could have died in front of her because the medical people kept saying it's heartburn and sending me home. I know what I did to her. I've ruined her. I did this. I know that. And if I could have fixed my health, I would have. I couldn't control the MRSA. I couldn't control the heart attacks. I got healthy after the MRSA so that I would have
But there were psychological components to it as well, because you said you became very depressed.
During the MRSA.
Hopeless.
During the MRSA, I absolutely did. I was ready to die. It hurt. I was done being sick.
I look back and I say, well, gee, here's a little girl that has been forced into the role of caretaker at age 8, ongoing throughout her childhood and her adolescence. And one thing she knows for sure is she is helpless to control what's going on.
Yep.
She's helpless to control. So is it a mystery that she finds